All right. Welcome back, guys. Welcome to Resilient Voices and Beyond. I'm excited for this episode for you guys today. I have Rebecca Kinard here with me, a good friend. Uh, Man, there's so many great things I can say about this young lady. She's helped me through thick and thin, has been there for me when I was homeless, and so forth. You know, um, I remember being able to go to her dorm and she helped me with homework and everything. I'm excited for her to share her experience and give you guys some knowledge and so forth. So without further ado, Rebecca, would you introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. I'm Rebecca, but you can call me Becca either way. Becca's normally the one I go by, but that's okay. Um, I am 23 years old, and I currently work for Reach, the Reach program in downtown Flint. I have my bachelor's degree in social work. I was a part of the Michigan Youth Opportunity Initiatives for 8 years, and I've done a lot of community work when it comes to speaking about my story and to advocate for foster youth.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. I just want to commend you because when we think about the statistics around high school graduates, let alone the statistics around college graduates for foster alumni and foster youth, not a lot of us are making it. So I just want to, say congratulations. Like, wow, and you doing your thing, So I just wanted to commend you for that. And I'm sure some of our listeners are the same way. But I want to get right into it, if you care to share, if you don't mind, tell me a little bit about your journey of why, you went into foster care and what that experience was like, you know. So
Yeah, so I entered the foster care system at the age of 13 in September of 2012. I entered the foster care system and was separated from three siblings. We all ended up having to go to separate homes because they could not find a home that would take all of us, especially me since I'm a teenager. And there's a lot of stigma behind being a teenager in the foster care system, which is really sad. I was in the foster care system for about 2 years. Um, I lived with one family for 2 weeks, and they were an amazing family. But then I was able to have an opportunity to move in with one of my siblings. So, of course, me being basically their mother, because I took care of them the most of their life, my mom really wasn't around. I moved in with them, and I lived with them for about 6 weeks. They were a great family as well, but it was hard because I wanted to respect them, and I did. I didn't disrespect them or nothing, but I had to go to church 4 times a week. I'm not a religious person, but I respect, religion, and I respect everybody and their beliefs. But it was hard on me because I just couldn't be left home, or somebody just couldn't watch me or something like that during those times. And it was kind of harder on me to bond with that family in a way because of that. And me and my brother lived with them for about 6 months. During this time, we would only have a sibling visit once a month or maybe once every other month because we would constantly get new caseworkers during family visits. They went well with my father, but with my mother and my other siblings, they either were constantly canceled or my mom would show up with a new boyfriend and then the caseworker would get mad and it would just be a bad visit. Or, since my siblings are younger, they would get most of my mother's attention. So I would just kind of sit there. And um, I entered the system due to abuse and neglect. Um, and when I say abuse, it wasn't necessarily abuse towards me, it was abuse towards my younger siblings. My mother was dating a boyfriend who had taped my brothers to the bunk beds at one point in time. Um, and so they got most of the abuse because they were younger and they really couldn't defend themselves. And so I had to try to defend them for me. And then After living with that one family for 6 months, I moved back in with the family I originally moved in with for 2 weeks. Me and my brother both moved in together. And I lived with them for the rest of the time in our foster care system. And it was a very hard transition because you go from living with people who you know and love to living with people that you have no idea who they are. And they automatically tell you what to do, where to go. And the night I was taken away, I was on my way from school. My mom came and picked me up, and there were a police officer and two social workers sitting on the side of the road checking every single car for us. And so I immediately called my father because I didn't know what was happening. And then when our house was just up the road, so the police officer let us drive to the house. And when they opened the door, they took the phone out of my hands and, they made me get out of the car. Of course I was upset. I was angry. I didn't know what was going to happen. They took us to this random brick building, and me and my siblings just sat there for hours not knowing what's going on. And I guess I could say it was easy to adapt, but that's just me. Most foster youth don't adapt that easily, especially in certain environments. But then I was returned home to my father. Me and my youngest sibling was returned home to our father. And then one was adopted and one is still currently in the foster care system.
Okay. So you kind of dropped a lot of tidbits and things about yourself and your story in there that I want to kind of touch on. So I kind of want to ask, and feel free to signal me if this question isn't if it dives a little bit too deep for you. But you kind of have a unique story that is similar to some other foster youth or alumni that had younger siblings. You were forced to be in a position of a parent and a protector when that wasn't your role, and I don't know if they did, but it kind of probably took a little bit of your childhood away in that role and so forth. So how, if you care to share, how did that affect you as you got older and so forth and transitioned out, and seeing them either still in the system or in different ways or whichever?
So it did take away almost my whole childhood because it was even after we came home that I started to take care of other siblings. Um, it it made me mature a lot, and I am thankful in many ways for that. But at the same time, I have a hard time making friends because most people my age are not as mature as I am. So if I meet somebody who's really immature or something, I immediately kind of shut down a little bit and be like, hey, like, I don't want to hang out. Like, I'm sorry, you're a good person, but like, we're not on the same mentality level. I get people asking me all the time if I'm like 32 or like in my 40s, just because I have a higher mentality. And even at work, I'm the youngest one at work, and they're all in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and they forget that I'm only 23. And so, like, I'm thankful when it comes to college and how high my mentality was because I was able to fly through my classes pretty quickly and understand things more in depth than others did. But I do wish that I would have had more of a childhood because I didn't really have any friends. I couldn't just go out and go down the street and go ride bikes with my friends or anything because I always had to say no. I had to take care of my siblings. So, on one hand, it's a positive thing, and then mostly it's a negative thing because even to this day, I don't do things that normal 21-year-old would do, like go to clubs and things like that. I mean, I know right now it's COVID, but even before then, I don't do anything that a normal 23-year-old would do.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I know that I'm getting a little bit personal here, but I think your story is unique to share to be able to shine a light. And I just want to say, while asking these questions, I thank you again for, choosing and choosing to be vulnerable here, and share pieces of your story for our listeners and being a guest on my show. So, my next question following that, so you aged out, and your siblings were still in your foster homes or residentials?
So I didn't age out of the foster care system. I was reunited is what they called with my
Okay.
family.
Okay.
But one of them, the youngest one, was adopted by his family. I don't hear anything from him. I constantly text his foster mom. She'll read it, but she won't, or his adopted mom, sorry. She'll read it. She won't reply to me. I don't know why. She promised that she would keep our relationship. I haven't seen him in almost 10 years. And my oldest brother is now 20. He was returned with me because we have the same father, and he just had a baby, which is really cute, by the way. I love my nephew so much. And then I have a 17-year-old brother who lives currently just moved in with my mother because she was able to get custody back of him.
Okay. So kind of switching gears here, I know you had a journey through high school with, moving around and so forth and everything. So if you could talk to me about like the background things that happened, like how did that transpire from you going to high school to getting to college?
Honestly, I'm surprised I graduated the year I was supposed to because I did move to so many schools. I think after moving to my 6th or 7th school district, or just schools, period, it became easier to adapt. I caught up very quickly. School has always been one of my strongest subjects. Unless it's math. Okay, I can't do math. But I would I would catch up very quickly. And I knew that graduating high school was a big goal for me in life when I was younger because that was the only thing I could see in the beginning. And I knew that I didn't want to be like my parents. My dad's a high school dropout. My mom was a high school dropout, but she got her degree when she was her high school diploma when she was 25. And I knew I didn't want to be like my parents. So that motivated me because I see how much they struggle every single day, even to this day. And as soon as I heard that the empowering program was at U of M and they helped me pay for my dorms and everything, that really motivated me to keep me going because in the dorms, I have my own space in my safe space. And then I know that my classes are going to be paid for no matter what.
Okay. Thank you. So, you know, going more into like this college experience for you. So like um going deeper into that, how was college for you? Did you switch up any majors? Like, did you go in there like and it was smooth? I kind of want to know, and I want to, you to be able to tell for our listeners that, maybe transitioning and get ready to go to college, um, if you had any struggles or difficulties and things you had to adapt and, mold to.
Yeah, college is very difficult to transition to if you're used to the 6 or 7 classes a day, and you know that your classes are between 7 to 3 p.m. It is harder to transition, but it all just depends on the person. And if they decide to go straight into spring semester right after they graduate high school, or if they wait until September and kind of give them a break. Um, I waited until September. I started off as a nursing major, and then after the first semester, I realized I don't want to do that anymore. Um, and so then I switched to social work the next semester. And my first couple years were really easy. I'm not going to lie. But as I said earlier, I like fly through classes. I understand the material. It wasn't hard for me. Um, Not saying that I heard other classmates say that they just want to drop out and give up, but um, during COVID, my last was it 2 semesters? Actually, my last year and a half of school. Um, it was very difficult to transition from being in the classroom to being strictly online, because not only did I have to remember to get out of bed to go sign into my Zoom class, but my internship was all online. And that was a very big struggle for me because I don't feel like I learned enough from it the way that I wanted to. And I didn't get to work with individuals in person. And I like to connect to people in person rather than online. Um, and the the professors made the workload a little bit heavier and a little harder because they couldn't see us in person. So like they had to give us something to do. And I completely understand that. But at the same time, like Zoom fatigue is a thing, as well as most of us lost our jobs. Many of us had children. It was a really big transition that professors didn't give us time to get into. So I would say college can be hard, but at the same time, it just depends on the person. And I know it was like 3% of foster care youth who actually graduate college before COVID hit. And now after COVID, I'm sure it's dropped drastically.
Definitely. A little bit of my story. I ended up homeless and so forth, and we ended up meeting and connecting through MYOI, which, if you guys don't know or listen to my other podcast, Michigan Youth Opportunity Initiative, which I'm gonna have Rebecca touch on that a little bit too, but we connected through that program, and I was actually in a local shelter, and we just bonded, and she supported me in getting back into school because I had dropped out. Life happened, chose to go to the working world, and then life bounced me back into I need to get my education. Like I need to figure this out, and I believe it was a year before COVID happened that I started back into college, and then COVID happened, and it took things to a lot because much like many students, I am a hands-on student. I like being in the classroom. It's just something that is comfortable to me. And just having that comfort of having that teacher at arm's reach to be able to ask questions, to be able to talk about it, to be able to have those classroom conversations. That's just something that for me that I enjoy and learn best from, and when that COVID happened, it really took a lot out of me. I think just being honest with you guys, I messed up a couple semesters, in that first beginning of COVID, almost really, lost my financial aid and so forth, but I continued to persevere and be resilient. And I slowed myself down. Like I knew I wasn't an online student. So I was like, let me just take 2 classes, let me pace myself with classes that I know that I can pass or know that I'll be able to do, and it won't be so stressful online. And it has worked out. I've done well. I've adapted. I've learned a new skill, which is being able to do things virtual and stuff like that. And I know there's some people that's probably still out there struggling and stuff, and that's why I'm here, on this podcast, because I want to be authentic and be real, and I wanted to be able to share and showcase stories um, that are real and uncut, that tells you about the realistic experience, like Becca, having to go through things, getting removed by CPS as soon as you get out the car, and different things like that. Those experiences, how that was probably traumatizing, to being in college during COVID and, just have to switch, um, So with getting into that gear, having to switch to virtual, I want to go into um, a little different topic here, but mental health. We don't talk too much about it. I kind of want to ask you, as a student, how did you do self care and mental health before COVID versus having to kind of? I'm pretty sure you had to do some kind of adaptation there when COVID happened, like far as maintaining, just stress levels and so forth. So, how did you adapt and deal with that?
So mental health is very important, and I know it is, especially young foster youth, and that's why I'm a really big advocate for foster youth, because many of them don't know or get diagnosed or anything like that, so they don't know what they're going to do. I Before COVID, if I was stressed, I would go hang out with friends. Like, I had a couple of friends on campus. I had my roommates that I could hang out with. My one roommate, his name is Kyle. He had a bunch of animals with him, and I absolutely loved them. So whenever I was stressed, um, I would go like hold one of his lizards or go play with his tortoise or something like that, or like go for a walk outside when it was sunny, just to get out of my head and get out of the dorm. Well, when COVID hit, I was kicked out of the dorms, as well as told that my job was shutting down at the same time. And so it was a very stressful time for me, and I didn't know what I was going to do. Thankfully, my boyfriend and his family opened up their home to me, and I am very grateful for that. But at the same time, like, the dorm should have never kicked me out. And I later learned on that they weren't supposed to. So U of M was not communicating very well. Anyways, my when COVID hit, I got into a really bad depression due to constantly being cooped up inside. I couldn't go see my friends. I couldn't go places because for the longest time we were shut down to the point where we couldn't even leave our houses without a letter saying that we had to go to work or something. So my mental health declined quite a bit, and it it was hard. It was hard, but I'm on medication, and I knew that if I ever need to talk to somebody, I can message you or message one of my other friends. And we talked quite a bit over quarantine, and it was, I think it's gotten better now. I know that we're still in COVID age, but I graduated college, so a lot of that stress is gone. And I'm now working as a counselor for homeless youth, and my job can be rewarding at times, especially hearing some of the things that the youth would tell me, and it would just kind of bring up my spirits. But I think COVID was the worst when it came to mental health.
Okay. Okay. I thank you for sharing that. Like, I just think that's so powerful. Um, and speaks to your resiliency. Because like, yeah, people struggle. We struggle out here. And there's such a stigma and so many different labels that goes around the mental health field. Some people, with over diagnosing or, over medicating and so forth, if they, been in residential facilities and then get out and and not maintain mental health or not see another doctor. It's so many different things that are affecting foster youth with mental health, and to be able to speak your truth and to your story, about the struggles that you had, as a college student, but not only a college student, but as a foster alumni, and future social worker, so it spoke to a piece where you know I forget this quote, and correct me if I say it wrong, but therapists need therapists too, social workers need and stuff like that. And I just think about that. We all need somebody. We all need a mental health, I guess, like, kind of toolbox. Like, how do we deal with it? What do we do for self-care and stuff like that? Because life is hard, whether you have been through something or not. So, with that being said, I kind of want to get into, you graduated during COVID. You became a counselor at the at Reach, working with homeless youth and so forth. I know this is the beginning for you, the very beginning of your social work career. There to say, what are you inspired to do? Like, what is your vision, and what do you want to go forth with? You know, what's next
Yes.
for you? To say,
Um, so I honestly didn't, I always told myself I was never going to be a counselor. Well, this is where I am today. Um, but my dream goal or my professional goal or my life goal is to, of course, work with the foster care system at some point in time. But at the same time, I don't want to be overworked the way the DHHS overworks their social workers or their CPS workers or whatever worker is there. So I want to create a transitional living housing for youth who are aging out of the foster care system, because there are so many that become homeless, and there are so many that they don't have anybody there for them. Yes, they live with this family for so long, but then this family's like, you know what, we're done, and they have to move out, and they have to be living on the streets, and to qualify for some of the DHHS um, funds or like scholarships or anything like that, you have to be within a certain criteria, and some of those or most of them don't meet that criteria. Especially like starting out, if they get kicked out, they can't be going to work 80 hours a week. How are they going to get there if they don't have a car? How are they going to afford to get there if they do have a car? So it's just the little things that don't add up in the foster care system that really makes me want to work with it. There's so many cracks and there's so many holes that foster youth fall through that a lot of them may commit suicide or they end up in hospitals. I hate to say it because they are over medicated and overdiagnosed. If a child is acting out, it's not just because of mental health. Well it is, but also like the behaviors of their environment. So if you're put into a residential, of course they're gonna act out, especially if they're like 5 and there's other kids running around, and you never know how those workers are with those children because their bosses are not always around. So in my future, I would like to be running more than one transitional house. Probably not in Michigan because I absolutely hate snow. I hate the weather so much. And maybe run my own private practice or work for a private practice that lines up with who I am as well.
okay, okay. Great goals, and I know that you're gonna reach those goals and you're gonna make it. Just don't forget about me when you make it. You know. No. But for real, I have a couple more questions for you. And just going back to what we were speaking about. If you could tell me a little bit what about MYOI and your experience, through that, program.
Honestly, MYOI is one of the reasons why I still continued through school and through the foster care system. So I started MYOI when I was 14. I had just turned 14 like a week before. And I was told to get in the car by my foster family. Okay, where are we going? You know? And then I was just dropped off at a random building and was told that there's food inside. Well, me being me, of course I went inside to get food. I mean, why? Who wouldn't, right? Well, I found out that it was MYY. Didn't know what it was, but they had free food, so I sat down and watched. So I started to learn more about the program. I was kind of distancing myself from people because I didn't want to get too attached before something happened. Like I suddenly moved home and I couldn't switch groups, or I was moved foster homes or anything like that. But after a period of time, I started doing speaking engagements. So I went in front of social workers and people who are just entering the foster care system as a worker, and told them about my story and how they can advocate for us and what they can do differently than what our workers did. And then I started going to fun things like a Pistons game, or we all just hang out as a family, like paintballing, or just going and Bar Louie and doing that Christmas charity thing. I forgot what it's called.
I forget what it's called too.
And that's actually where we met.
Yeah, that was like the first event. I believe it was. No, let me not lie. It was some kind of charitable thing, to be able to raise funds and so forth. So
Yeah, and then I knew right then and there, I was like, I need him to be my friend. Like, I've seen you before because I've been to conferences like the one in June when we go to Saginaw Valley, or I can't remember the other colleges that we've been to, but you always seemed like a really funny person. Yeah, I know, right? And you just seemed like a really positive person that I wanted to be around, and I knew I needed in my life. So as soon as I saw you walk in and when they were like, hey, you're joining our MYY, and I'm like, oh, hey, yeah, this is my time to make him my friend. And so I did. And so MYY has really helped me with telling my story, bringing me out of my shell a lot. I used to be a very quiet person, but if you know me now, I'm not.
no.
Thanks, Michael. And I gained a whole nother family that I never knew I needed in my life. And I was also given opportunities like my college paid for, and getting a brand new laptop through funds, and like being able to have that account where every time we got paid from MYOY, some of it would go away into a savings account. And so when I was able to use that account, I could. So, I mean, it was kind of bittersweet to have to leave MYOY, but it was probably one of the greatest things in my life.
That's awesome. Like, and for me coming up on my last year, I also know you took up leadership roles and so forth and everything like that. Got to speak to directors and everything. And, MYOY is a really awesome experience. And I wanted you to speak to it, as people who have been in there for, 6-7 years, and have experienced all that it could possibly, give. Wanted to be able to share that to some of our young listeners or social workers or whoever, that are in the state of Michigan, and so forth, so they can be able to understand the importance, much like yourself, when I went to my first MYOY meeting, it was in Bay County, and I was actually in residential, and the coordinator at the time, typically because of experience in the past, did not allow youth from residential to attend the meetings. But somehow I slid through there, I slid through there, and somebody advocated for me, was like, hey, he's a good kid. He hasn't had any kind of, trouble or whatever. I think he could benefit from this program. And I went and had a very awesome experience. I felt like a wrap around me of support and family instantly. Like, even though I was much like yourself, like I wasn't trying to have too many conversations, with people, because I don't know y'all, I don't know what y'all about, this food is great though. I appreciate it,
Honestly.
And everything. But it took me a minute to open fully up. But what the atmosphere that was created and that group gave me a sense of family, a sense of camaraderie and support. And that's something that I completely, appreciate. Like, even having been in different counties, I actually experienced being in MYOY in 3 different counties, ending out in what county I'm in currently, Genesee County, MYOY. and being on a leadership board, mentoring other youth that were younger than me, being able to go to conferences like the Daniel Memorial Conference, being able to go out of state. First of all, and it kind of like was a full ride trip, but it also was educational. I got to meet so many people, and that kind of pushed me into what I'm doing now and what I'm building for myself, as a student and as a young man, I started advocating then, like that was 15 for me. When I entered NYOI, I started advocating, and that taught me what advocacy was about, what we were trying to do, by using youth voice and so forth with NYOI. And it trained me to be a good leader and a role model and a mentor. So I appreciate it. I'm much like yourself. Like it was life changing for me. Like I don't see where I could be without the coordinators and without the people around me at that time. So, lastly, my two questions. It's been a great time, talking with you. But my two last questions: what advice and tidbits do you have for young professionals like yourself? And then also, what advice and tidbits do you have? Um, I'm gonna do this different. Young professionals like yourself, and then also for social workers, and then lastly for alumni. So those three pieces of advice. What do you have?
I'm going to start with alumni. I remember when I was 18, when I just graduated high school, I didn't think I was going to make it in life. I didn't think I was going to even live past the age of 20. But it takes time. Not everything is done right then and there. It's something that takes time. And that if you need absolutely anything, there are always people out there to reach out to, whether it be your social worker or people in the community who can get a hold of like a social worker or anybody like that. And there's always so many resources that you have to utilize them and make sure you utilize them. Because if you don't, those services are going to end up being deleted altogether. For social workers, yeah, it's life. We have made I understand now that how tired everybody, why my caseworkers were always so tired. But at the same time, it not only affects you, it affects the children. If you are not at your best self, you cannot be your best self for those children, and those children will not get what they need. You won't sit there, you will not listen to what they need, and you'll do what you think that they need. They will tell you what they need. So please, please, please find hobbies. Go see a therapist. Vent to your boyfriend. Get a dog or a reptile. Whatever you like to do. You just have to make sure that you're doing a lot of self-care, because if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be taking care of those children the way they need to be taken care of. And for young professionals, I don't know, like it just, life is a learning experience, and I'm still learning. No matter how high or low my mentality can be, it's every day is a learning experience, especially when you're around a lot of old people like I am at work. Okay.
They're not old, they're seasoned.
Very, very seasoned. Okay. But just make sure you take life one day at a time, especially when it comes to your college experience. Michael, I'm very proud of where you are today, and I always am very proud of you. You were always, I don't know how you always stayed so positive, but I would have given up, honestly. I knew you were going somewhere in your future. That's why I let you in my dorm. And I was kind of lonely. I would like a friend, and you needed to warm up, so I felt kind of bad. So of course you were going to be let in.
Definitely, definitely. It was a group effort. I remember like I at some point I had at least 3 or 4 of your roommates, including yourself, and helping me with my homework, and stuff like that. And it's just moments like that I go back and think about the people, the friends, the acquaintances, just everybody who's walked through my life, um, and just helped me. Like they didn't have to. They didn't have to at all, and I don't know if it's just me, my character, or whatever, it's just, I've gotten a lot of support in times where I didn't was what was next, I was homeless, when I started back college. Like, most people would be like, I'm not doing this, get down in the dumps or whatever. But I was like, I cannot, like something in me wouldn't allow me to just feel sorry, to be sad, to just let life happen to me. I woke up the next day after being brought by the shelter by our coordinator and stuff like that. And I said, I choose life and I choose to make something out of myself. I went to Michigan Works that next day and worked on my resume, my cover letter. And it just, so happens the president of my college had came that following week, did a little devotional, because it was a Christian shelter. And I gave her my resume and cover letter, and I was like, I don't know what you can do, but I need help. And that's and in saying that, that's my last piece of advice, and I'm gonna end this out on that. Like, foster youth, do not be afraid at any point. If anything you can do is ask for help. Like that was my saving grace. Like, that's a testimonial, a little story for you guys to use, like to tell you, like people are out there, they will help you. You are gonna face some people that are rude, that just they got stuff going on. They got stuff going on. It ain't even about them being rude, but at a high chance you're gonna face some people that are willing to help you and to help see you through the greatness that is within you. So this is Resilient Voices and Beyond. I am so glad and thankful to have you, Rebecca. Your journey is miraculous and great, and you have yet to, reach the peak of all that you will do. And I'm excited to be a friend. I'm glad to have had you in my times of need and support. And thank you for being here. To the audience, thank you for listening. I hope that we were able to share some tips, some tidbits, just some knowledge, and that, Becca's story was able to bring something to you that you can take away. You guys stay safe out there. Please stay safe. COVID is crazy. And just stay alive. This is Resilient Voices and Beyond. Have a great day. Have a great evening. Have a great night. Whenever you're listening, just have it and be great. Thank you.